Welcome, creatives, community, and kind folks to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and all of you are the co-hosts here. If you are not into tabletop role-playing games and deep diving into how the sausage is made, maybe this isn't for you. But if you are brilliant, creative, and maybe a little bored, we'd love to have you here. Thank you very much for being here. Today, we're going to continue our talk about your TTRPG sucks. And more importantly, having a discussion about the categories of why games suck. Or rather, we have differences in the tabletop role-playing game community about what games are better than others, play styles, whether layout, design, art, the history of these games, nostalgia, and all those kinds of things. And today, we're going to take a look at something a bit old. It's almost 25 years old now, and it is called the 8 Types of Fun. I'm going to try to establish some of the history of it, but I think more importantly, you guys want to know what the 8 Types of Fun actually are. So let me allow me the honor of showing you which types of fun exist and the origins of said thing. So if any of you are familiar with the Angry DM, Mark LeBlanc, or even a Gnome Stew, you will understand where the 8 types of fun comes from. Now, the 8 types of fun come from a report. I'll show this to you guys and put this up here. Microsoft Word. All right, here we are. So the 8 types of fun comes from a report about describing how to describe what fun is, and it's titled, of course, and it's down in the doobly-doo, by the way. It's called the MDA, A Formal Approach to Game Design and Game Research by Robin Hunick, Mark LeBlanc, and Robert Zubek, Zabek. And this research paper was done for probably Northwestern University. And allow me to page to a specific section of video game design. And more specifically, it involves this section right here, which has been taken into the video gaming arena, and then, of course, thereby taken into the tabletop role-playing arena. And there are these 8 categories: sensation, fantasy, narrative, challenge, fellowship, discovery, expression, and submission. And we're going to go through those. Now, this, of course, leads to one of the writers here, and this is in Wikipedia. And if you search up one of the writers of this paper, Mac LeBlanc, is an educator and a designer of video games, attended MIT. We received a bachelor's of science and master's of science in computer science, and if you go down here, is also one of the writers of the 8 kinds of fun. Again, sensation, fantasy, narrative, challenge, fellowship, discovery, expression, and submission. This, of course, brought about articles written by the Angry GM. Let's go to the top here. By the Angry GM. Do I have this link? You know what? I'll grab this link up here. Can't remember if I put this in the doobly. But again, talking about translating the various types of fun into role-playing, and as well as, I believe it's Gnome Stew, also goes through the exact same thing, the 8 types of fun. So if you've ever heard of it, there is a genealogy. I believe the paper was written in 2001. Let's see if I can find a date on this. No, I can't find a date on it. I believe I believe the Angry DM put his one out in, there he is, between 2001 and 2004. Game designers Huniki, LeBlanc, and Zubek gave a series of lectures discussing a formalized approach to video game design. And then it goes on into these other things. Now, under Gnome Stew, the 8 types of fun, this was printed in 2016. So this has been around a while, and goes to describe the various types of fun that exist. And we're going to discuss those types of fun. So if you've heard of this, and it may have come from different categories or different vectors of your gaming experience, it deals with video games, but instead we're going to go with tabletop role-playing games, because it doesn't just run parallel. I mean, it is a sibling of the two. And we're going to go through each one. I think this one, that's Gnome Stew. Let's go to Angry DM. Let's just share this out. And this article it's got some length to it, because it really does engender itself to having larger discussions of what fun really is, and how we interact with fun, if that makes, because it's like taking fun very seriously, but in all honesty, when we have language to discuss things, maybe possibly, and I know I've done a video on this, maybe I've done even 2 videos on this in the past 10 years, and it's good to go back and rejuvenate our creativity, our brilliance, really, when it comes to these kinds of things. So let's begin with our first types of 8 kinds of fun. All right, so let's begin with sensory pleasure. It provides a framework for understanding what the aesthetics are really about. This is the pleasure you get from things you can see, hear, and touch. Physical books, art, dice, music, maps, diagrams, miniatures, terrain, and props all bring a tinge of joy to the sensory pleasure seeker. I would add into sensory pleasure, along with, for example, physical books, the art and the dice and the maps and such, is layout. For example, do I have the book here? Oh yeah, I do. A gaming book that exemplifies the sensory part of this is this Morkborg book. When you feel this hardcover book, it is emblazoned. It actually has a indentation bas reliefness to it. Every single page of this book has a layout that breaks all the rules. I can just open up random pages here, and it breaks all the rules in terms of font and layout and information distribution and writing things in margins and upside down and all that kind of stuff, to the point that it horribly hurts the eyes of those that there are reasons why people hate this book in the tabletop community. Some love it and some hate it. And part of the fun of running this game is actually having the physical book present. It is divisive, and it is why some people who are not very stimulated by sensory input wonder why some books sell better than others, simply because of its layout, its font, the colors used, ribbons maybe, hardback versus soft, the organizational layout, how much artwork is in the book in general to break it up. I'm a very visual individual, visual individual, who is able to navigate a book, especially tabletop role-playing books, based on the artwork. So I'll remember chapters and headings and locations and tables based on the layout. And if there's enough variety, I'll remember where the variety comes in, or even when there are pages with no variety, I'll know when it's tucked in between other things. And there are others subconsciously that do the same thing, as well as like it goes on to say about maps, diagrams, miniatures, terrain, props, like your favorite T-shirts or your dice tower, or the type of dice that you use. Are they the super heavy metallic ones with the super sharp ass edges, or are those the dollar store plastic ones that you picked up very easily that you don't care about and will set fire to when they don't roll in your favor? That kind of thing. So number one is sensory pleasure. Number two is fantasy. And fantasy is the pleasure you get from losing yourself in an imaginary world and pretending you're someone you are not. It is escapism. It is immersion. The fantasy seeker wants to feel as if their character could be a real character in a world that could be real. They want to be allowed to be their character. And sometimes fantasy comes from not just in the moment, but your memory has filed it away under a thing that you've done, not something that a separate character from you has done. There are some people who have had some of the most amazing tabletop role-playing experiences because when they recall what happened, they only recall it by describing it as, I was hanging by my fingertips on the edge of the cliff, and I charmed the guards to let me in. And I remember when I was injured and they healed me at the last minute, and I begged for the lives of my cohorts and allowed us to parlay with the great evil, or something like that. Drew says, for me, the visuals are not the sensory input I am looking for. I can enjoy it, but my preference is in the aesthetics of the language. Ooh, thank you very much for bringing that up. Sometimes something well written, even. For example, there are tabletop role-playing. I've got a ton of games, and many of you that are polygamers have these books. And sometimes the way it is written can also draw you in and, like number one, give you sensory pleasure, in the sense that some books are matter of fact. They just give you the rules, they give you the setting, and they get out your way. You say, this is a fact, you roll this die. This is a setting. This is a mountain. This is what's in the mountains. Sometimes books are written as a history or a diary. Even the rules, even as if someone is talking to you. Hey, chum. Cyberpunk 2020 does this. Hey, Chumba. Blah blah blah. I need to tell you about this thing because if you don't watch yourself, you might get yourself killed. I've even got another pocket game called Beta Red that I did a review on. Same thing, where it's done very casually and draws you in. Some are like some books, sensory wise, are written like a mentor or a warning. Be careful with on the edges of this book. Here there be dragons, right? So number one is sensory pleasure. Number two is fantasy, being lost. The article for the Angry GM goes on to say, fantasy can be very delicate. A lot of things can break someone out of the fantasy. We've heard this many times. It breaks immersion. Rolling initiative breaks immersion. Having to count up, I don't know, Benny points or whatever breaks immersion. But I would dare say that fantasy is also about allowing the allowance of allowing us to portray our character as if they were in the world, and the rules and the minis and the maps and the idea that we're online across thousands of kilometers around the world and such, that a lot of that starts to fade away, and what someone is really looking for is the fantasy of a thing. Now, I feel like immersion has different levels. I mean, I still think you can be immersed even if you take a step back. Like, well, it's not really me in the fantasy world. It's a character being portrayed in a fantasy world. But like some that play video games, and it's not first person. It's not them looking at their hands. It's them looking at the back of the head of the of their avatar, I think you can still be immersed in that, much like watching animals at the zoo. You're not the animal at the zoo, but you are imagining the life of this creation that you made and releasing it into this world, and the acceptance of that. Number 3 is narrative. Let's see if Drew has anything to say. Number 3 is narrative. Okay, and under narrative, it is narrative seekers take pleasure from experiencing a well-told story as it unfolds. But this one has a lot of complicated baggage in tabletop role-playing games. The thing is, it is existence of the story that satisfies the narrative seeker. The better put together the story is, the happier the narrative seeker is. We've been trained for ages to expect stories to have a certain shape, a beginning, middle, ending, incitement, like the inciting conflict, inciting in act or scene, conflict, climax, resolution, the whole shebang. There's a lot of structure to a good story, and a narrative seeker is most satisfied when the game mechanics match that structure. Now, one of the issues I think about the fun of the narrative versus the fantasy is that narrative seekers love story structure, meaning, like, again, the beginning, middle, and end, inciting incidents, scene breaks, and there is a goal to each scene building upon each other. Maybe they are imagining themselves, and I do this, imagining themselves in a novel or a book, a graphic novel, a movie or television show, and they love the story beats that a story brings. Role-playing games are random, but there are games that are designed to massage how a game is portrayed. As a matter of fact, while there are many people who despise stories because they'll say, well, if you're trying to write a story, I mean, if you're going to force me into your story, I'm out. You should, if you're going to do that, write a novel. Don't include me, a random player, into your story. But we also expect a rising action. You know, we talk about, literally, it's called the big bad evil guy, the BBEG, at the end of a story. There's a rising action. There's a climax. The idea of the 5-room dungeon encapsulates what story structure is. And so, while role-playing games, I on this channel, I talk a lot about the OSR, where there is no, purposefully, there's no story structure. It's chaos and random events happening, and then we all accept the fantasy of those random events. But I would dare say that post-game coitus, that we could establish a story to a bunch of random, unintentionally threaded scenes, and then that becomes the narrative. And I think some people enjoy that part of it. Like, looking back at the game, oh, when you failed that roll, and when we met this NPC, and when we uncovered the secret, that becomes the story itself. So some people go into a game, like, I'm in chapter 1 and I can't wait to see chapter 6. Others go in and go, oh, there's a bunch of random pages, but when we shuffle them together, it makes a storyline, and then we insert aspects of ourselves and other players into that story, and that's what narrative is. That's number 3. Drew says, I think in our hobby, the important part is setting the narrative up with a proper framework, but have then the story emerge from that. And I'm not against that at all. I think sometimes, because we're all personal, we all have our own desires. You know, there are armchair sci-fi and fantasy writers out there that play role-playing games because really what they want to do is see their story writ large with other people. We have that, and sometimes it comes up randomly. You know, we will be encouraged about a thing, and then suddenly we want to role play that out, and the people around the table are like, you probably are working out chapter 3 of your novel, aren't you? And you know, in their head they're like, yeah, probably am. Okay. Drew says that is why my own system gets so many pages, even though it is rules light, since I spend plenty of time to elaborate narrative frameworks out of which the stories emerge. Yeah, maybe we should have a third-ish, fourth-ish category called depth, because there are plenty of rules light games that have a high page count because it requires such depth of explanation that the engaging of it is easy, but the rest of it is difficult. All right, number 4 is challenge. And challenge seekers see the game as a series of obstacles to overcome and foes to be defeated. They want to test themselves and win. If they fail, they want to know the failure was fair, and next time they will do better. Just keep in mind that challenge seekers aren't solely about winning combat. They like overcoming obstacles. They like accomplishing goals, and they like to win. Investigations, puzzles, negotiations, chases, hunts, and obstacles are all valid challengers. Angry GM goes on to say, it is popular to scoff at challenge seekers. These are the people trying to win. Power gamers, munchkins, optimizers, min-maxers sometimes fall into that. They don't want to role play. They want to roll the dice and play, and that's stupid. Remember, most people combine multiple aesthetics. Give a challenge seeker a fair obstacle and the tools to overcome it, and the challenge seeker will be happy. Those sessions where it is all just personal interaction and exploration, the ones where it was all role play and nobody touched dice, challenge seekers might end up being bored to tears. Yeah, fudging dice, applying the rules unfairly, and everybody wins mentality are anathema to challenge seekers. Now, I would also say that challenge seekers might be in this category, might be the closest to the ones who keep the math in their heads, the math and the probabilities. But I would also say that there are a lot of OSR challenge seekers that are not about rolling the dice, but about how they want to overcome obstacles using creative tactics. For example, they may find a sheer wall, and the players they don't understand how the enemy can go up a sheer wall into a doorway that's like 60 feet above their head. And the players don't have any way to climb walls, they don't have magic, but someone finds little holes evenly spaced that lead upwards. And someone goes, are they like peg holes? And the GM is like, I don't know. Do you think they're peg holes? And someone says, remember that goblin that had a backpack with a bunch of those wooden dowels in it? Maybe they fit into the holes. And then someone says, yeah, I got about 15 of them. And so slowly they start putting one dowel, one wooden rod into each hole until it leads up to the top. And then the person at the very bottom starts pulling each dowel behind them one by one, keeping them with them, right? And that's an obstacle, to challenge without rolling dice that they overcome. The hey, let's cook a meal for our guests, and the guests are impressed by it because they realize that they read a diary or a letter that says that they missed a home-cooked meal or something like that, right? I think challenge seekers are that way. And then, of course, there's physical actions, and of course, there's combat and such. So, yeah, in many games, challenge could be the thing. And I think challenge in role-playing games doesn't necessarily need to be die rolling, although it could be, in my character creation and the things that I accomplished in the game and things that I collected, are they the perfect combination to overcome a numerical challenge that's set before me? So that becomes challenge. Number 5 is fellowship, and you already know what fellowship means. Those in search of fellowship view the game as a framework for social interaction and cooperation. They enjoy camaraderie and social interaction and working together with a team. At the extreme, fellowship seekers don't really care about the game, except insofar as it gives them something to do with other people and a way to contribute to a group. Fellowship seekers can have their games absolutely ruined by group drama, antisocial behavior, and lack of teamwork. When a group includes that one evil character, the Fellowship Seeker's sense of fun is probably going to be the first casualty. Oftentimes I feel like Fellowship in terms of fun isn't necessarily included dynamically in the role-playing game. What I mean by that is I can give to you a stack of 15 books, and while some of it may talk about collaborating or working together or accomplishing a goal, some people just aren't designed that way. That's not what they seek. They don't really want to hang around other people, and they express their introvertedness through their character, who always wants to go off on their own or do their own thing or is constantly monkey wrenching. Some people just like to want to be contrarians, and that works against the person who loves Fellowship. Now, I will say some people who like Fellowship, meaning like having a game with other people, love the internal drama that it creates, meaning like they love characters that have conflict with each other, like social conflict with each other, emotional conflict, and they enjoy the back and forth, when the dungeon master sits back and puts their hands back and watches everybody role play. Some people enjoy that kind of Fellowship, and that really sticks in the craw of the challenge seekers that are like, no, we should be working as a well-oiled, like, special ops, black ops, Navy SEAL team, right? Delta Force team, where like everybody has their place and their role, and you should stick in their place, rather than like arguing the point or having, the character that's like, you hurt my feelings, I'm not going to work with you, and the one player is like, we're going to be acting suboptimally as a group. So I can see Fellowship, different people loving Fellowship, but for different reasons. And lastly, there's some people who will love Fellowship just because they like to hang around people. The role-playing game really isn't the important part. It's the hanging around everyone else. And so Fellowship can be important. I think mechanically in a role-playing game is where you get the mechanical collaboration. Like, oh, you tell me what you find in the room, or you tell me what the tapestry looks like, or you tell me what the NPC personality is like, or what they're wearing and stuff. And I think that can rub some players the wrong way in terms of their fun if that's not the kind of Fellowship they are looking for. Hello. Hello, Heliopia. I really appreciate you being here. Number 6 is discovery. Discovery seekers like to explore and learn new things. They like to uncover things. They view the game as uncharted territory and get a thrill every time they fill in another blank on the map. Of course, the map is a metaphoric map in this sense. They are just as happy discovering the history of the world, the nature of the gods, the answers to mysteries and puzzles, and the reasons why things work. They simply want to learn and understand everything. Oddly, discovery seekers also seem to be drawn to self-discovery. Some players who get excited just discovering the secret history of Orcus that no one knows also get a thrill from confronting a difficult moral issue and learning about what they themselves believe. Moral dilemmas and social quandaries can fill in for exposition and backstory. I'm actually watching this overlap happen in one of my own games right now. This is written by the Angry GM, and the group is very heavily stilted towards discovery seeking, and they seem to be drawn to ethical dilemmas with the same fervor. Now, there are games that lend themselves to discovery. Call of Cthulhu is a perfect one. Transhumanism and post-humanist role-playing games like Altered Carbon, Eclipse Phase, Cyberpunk even, those kind of games, some of those games lend themselves to ethical and moral quandaries and self-discovery. And I would even say that great role players that refuse to make long backstories for their characters are actually discovery people, because what they want to learn is moving forward. Hey, does my character really like the nobility of the eastern seaboard, and they start to build sometimes random traits and build upon those things. A perfect example is the classic adventure Keep on the Borderlands. B2, Keep on the Borderlands. Is it B2 or is it B1? And Keep on the Borderlands has a it's B2, Keep on the Borderlands, and unfortunately it has something in it that was unexpected to many people who played that very game. And Keep on the Borderlands has a situation where it's a classic go into a cave/dungeon to fight evil. Okay. But you also find goblinoid children and pregnant individuals. And it created an ethical and moral quandary for some, because they're like, well, wait a minute, what are we supposed to do with them? And the game, the adventure never tells you that not only are you going to encounter this, but what happens when you do encounter the thing. And in addition to that, it doesn't even have it says Hoy is enough. That's okay. And it doesn't even have any answers about what would happen if you don't kill the monster manual says they're evil goblinoid children and pregnant mates of the goblinoids that are living in the caves. But through discovery, that is a thing that can happen. And it can be very difficult to handle that. So more or less, we end up finding out that discovery lends itself to histories and world building and secret plots and things like that. World builders love players who are discoverers, because if you're going to bother writing a Google Doc or a World Anvil or Obsidian or page or a wiki page or something like that, and the players don't bother asking questions, those of us that are world builders, this guy, we don't like those players. It's like, we built this entire world. Like, there's a reason why people are wearing blue scarves on top of their heads. Why you're not asking the question why is like, please ask the question to an NPC. I will gladly answer it, right? And so that's the thing with discovery. Number 7 is expression. The Angry GM says, this is a big one. The 600-pound gorilla in the room. I've mentioned it a couple times already. This is what I would call the trending aesthetic. It is the thing everyone is talking about in the RPG community, at least online where I can hear it. This is 2016, and people are starting to view it as the be-all and end-all of role-playing games. Expression is the pleasure you get from expressing yourself creatively. This is the desire to create something that is unique to you, to say something about who you are and what you believe, or simply to impose your creative will on the world around you. And to some people, this is the primary reason to play role-playing games. Honestly, that's not terribly unfair. After all, role-playing games are unique in that they are being run by a human brain in real time that can respond to anything the players think of. The players are free to try anything. They can create any character, describe their character's actions any way. In some games, they are free to create parts of the world or even shape the entire story. RPGs are unique in their ability to provide that level of creative freedom to all participants. Expression also, I think, can rub people the wrong way because you're not alone in that expression. So some people like to express themselves with foul language or sexual innuendo or subject matter such as politics and religion and money. What are like the top 5 things you're not supposed to talk about with family? Some people want to express that in their role-playing games, not understanding that you're also playing with other people who they themselves are also trying to express themselves. Now, there's been a lot of pushback when it comes to people expressing themselves in a way that there's so many options. Many games are designed with so many options that it feels like it's untenable because everyone wants to become a special snowflake. And the number of options, it's like, in the olden days in the OSR, you were basically a bunch of humans and maybe one or two, like an elf and a halfling. Now everyone's got like rainbow colored skin and they're all non-human and you could barely find a human in the pack. And it rubs some old grognardians like myself the wrong way because they're trying to express themselves. Drew says, the true discovery might not be how you deal with such moral conundrum, but how horrified you get when seeing how your friends deal with it. You've heard me say many times that sometimes role-playing, some people are like, great, I get to bring out my inner psychopath or sociopath. And you just look around like, really? Like, you thought murder, killing like children and pregnant women in a tabletop role-playing game was the highlight of your expression? Like, really? I hear you, Drew. Yeah, so sometimes it's dealing with the horror of the people around you, not just the thing. Yeah. Drew says expression is definitely one of the main pillars for my own system. Yep. Now, like I said, expression can be a bit Hoey or Hoy. That is funny. I have a really unique character, a human fighter who came from a happy family. Wow. Slow clap on that one. Yeah, I'm so unique. I am a human and a fighter, and his family is still alive. Yep. Everyone's like, what? That's hilarious. I think one of the fun issues when it comes to expression simply is just rubbing other people the wrong way. Like, because expression itself is so personal, I think, to people that calming our fellow players, gamers down and going, leave some space for other people to express themselves. And also the downside of expression, that there are horrible, evil things in the world that literally don't want you to express yourself. And that is the challenge, I think, is the issue. I remember when I first started my channel and I talked about, I had a scenario about villagers living on the edge of a swamp, and they were having trouble with like the lizard people, and someone was playing a dragonborn. And I said, yes, the villagers hate you because you're one of those scaled folk and you're one of those lizard people. And the person didn't understand. They're like, well, no, but my character's like lawful good and they're like a paladin. I'm playing a dragonborn. I'm not a lizard man. Like, why would they hate me? And I'm like, because they don't know who and what you are. That's called prejudice, right? Where everyone who looks alike is exactly alike. And it didn't dawn on that person that somebody else would look at them differently than they look at themselves. And I think sometimes in expression, people are, it's not the game. What they're desiring is to be in a place, safe-wise, in which not only can they express themselves, but they are safe in that expression. And while amongst friends you may be safe, your character might not be safe. And also it might be an opportunity to punch people in the throat that are like closed-minded. So removing challenges to your expression sometimes can be a dilemma when it comes to people that are role-playing. It's like, yes, you are going to go in a world where maybe people don't like you and have misconceptions about you. Now's the opportunity to express yourself in a way that changes their minds. And some people don't want that challenge. They're just like, no, I want to play, hey, I don't know, they were in the closet or something. They're like, hey, I've always wanted to play this, maybe personally they're going through a bit of like a body dysmorphia, and they want to portray a character in a way in which they could be. And I'm like, hell yeah, of course you can. But maybe the world or a section of the world where the big bad evil guys live don't necessarily appreciate that, and that's, I think, where some pushback comes from, or can come from. Let's put it that way. Lastly, we have submission. The final aesthetic is called submission, though I prefer the term that the extra credits team use, abnegation. It just sounds cooler, more complicated, which is funny. Submission is the pleasure you get from turning off your brain and losing yourself in a task you don't have to think too hard about. Grinding levels in World of Warcraft, mining minerals in Minecraft, farming item drops in Diablo 3. Submission, this is what the angry GM says, is an odd one to discuss in tabletop RPGs because it is one that tabletop RPGs don't handle so well. The thing is, even the simplest tasks in an RPG require high cognitive load. You have to think things through. But still, the concept of beer and pretzels play exists for a reason. Go down into a dungeon, kick down doors, kill orcs, take their loot, go back to town, lather, rinse, repeat. That is submission or abnegation. I would also say submission is also passive tabletop role playing. And what I mean by that is some people role play because they want to be around other people who are doing that. And it's not necessarily, if I go back up to Fellowship, some people just want to be passive gamers. They're there to see other things. And I know it rubs some people the wrong way, especially us older folks, but I think that's where watching other people play role-playing games and watching other people play video games is in such a high regard. They want to submit themselves into a thing and just experience the thing. I think some people just want to sit back and they find it fun to see other people experience a thing. They find it fun to see other people interacting, and they like to be the fly on the wall, the ghost, the ephemeral person floating in and amongst everyone and living vicariously through other people. Not that they want to be the center of attention and they want to make the jokes and they want to cause the conflict. They just want to sit there and experience it. And I think that is also submission as well. So yeah, those are, yeah. Drew also says, I would say submission and abnegation is what we call immersion. I agree with that too. I wouldn't argue that point, and I think there's a lot of overlap in many of these. There's a lot of overlap in many of these things. As a matter of fact, let me put down below. I'm going to write all these down in the ticker, type all these out in the ticker below. So there's a fantasy, submission. Let's see, narrative. Do I have all of them? There we go. Expression. Let's go back up to the top. We have expression and discovery. I'm sorry. I'm doing this on the fly. Discovery. Don't spell this wrong. Challenge. That's 5 of them. I got 3 more to go. I'm not smart. Fellowship and sensory pleasure. Let's see. Fellowship, sensory pleasure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. I'm going to add this into the ticker, and bam, and I'll show it. So there we go. So those down below in the ticker are the 8 types of fun, and oh, maybe I should just put in. Maybe I should put abnegation in there. Come on. Let's see. Here we go. Submission / abnegation. There we go. So the in terms of these 8 types of fun, I think we could all say like some games are designed to have some of these effects. And I guess if you had little sliders, like, hey, this is from 1 to 10, and you just like push them up like being on a spectrum, and you had these in a spectrum and you could slide them back and forth. I bet we could have I okay. I wonder if you could put like a circle on the front or back cover of RPG books and have like like a color code, like 8 different colors, and have those words in like that pie shape, and then you have a slider like this is a 3 in this game, this is a 7, this is an 8. Now, mind you, of course, it would be far too subjective, but I would dare say that some people who are in our community that wonder why they hate a game, I'm going to bring up a game like Morkborg, and don't understand why others don't like it, is because one or more of these things work against the fun they really want to have. Um, the rules of this game fit on the back page of this book. Those are the rules, right? So if you're someone that is about challenge and the numbers, maybe game isn't for you. If you want to play a character that is basically working their way, spiraling down into a pit of depression and despair, this is the game you want to play. That might not be fun for some people. And um, remember, this came from video game 8 types of fun, but I really think that the game really does work for me. And I also feel like when we say something is fun, just like below, have in the ticker below. I should have put some more spaces between the words. Anyway, um, like we talked about submission, abnegation, and some of these, I feel like um, the things that make people have fun in tabletop role playing games oftentimes are cast aside, or we don't understand why it's fun in the first place. Um, Many would say for people who don't like to watch Critical Role, and I'm a person who I'm not a big Critical Role fan. It's for me it's a huge time sink, and while I don't dislike actual plays, live plays, people playing role playing games. I would rather be in them than watch them. So I have a very low tolerance for it. Like I can't listen to or watch one for an hour and a half. I'm about 15, 20 minutes in, and then my brain starts to short out because I want to say something, I want to do something, and spiraling out of control to a pit of despair and agony. Yeah, nope, I'm out. I don't need that. Yeah, and there's some games that are like that, right? Some people don't like Call of Cthulhu because it is a game of attrition. It is a game of slowly losing your mind. And some people in real life, they're like, listen, I'm too close to that in real life. I don't want to play that in a game. Whereas if you ask them, would you like to play in a post-apocalyptic world like Dark Sun or Zombie Apocalypse, they might say, yeah, sure. Do I have to play a character that's going to lose their mind? No. And then they go, yeah, and we might be scratching our heads like, it's kind of the same thing. They're both horrible. Like, why don't you like one or the other? And using these 8 types of fun, maybe those are the reasons why. Some people don't want to play role-playing games unless they have maps and miniatures. Or for world builders, I know a ton of you world builders out there put together like Pinterest files with a bunch of artwork. Some people collect lots of music. They love to have that background music on. The remember the old classic playing RPGs in your mama's basement? The aesthetics of that was, some people miss that. They can't play a role-playing game in the brightly lit afternoon of a coffee shop. They need to be in a dark, kind of enclosed, slightly musty smelling location to get themselves into it. And to understand that a person needs that might be pretty good. So, like, for example, some people can't even role play their character unless they find like like a headshot that they find on ArtStation or DeviantArt or something like that. Yeah, if the gods of Call of Cthulhu heal your mind so they can stop you, so they could you imagine the gods of Call of Cthulhu coming into the Morph world like we need to help these people because it is horrible. Yeah, this is definitely a game of attrition. Talked about that yesterday. Like my 10 goals, I guess. I put 10 types of RPGs. I guess it would be better described as 10 goals of tabletop role-playing games. I'm not exactly sure what I mean by that, but whatever. So if let me summarize this and let you guys go over this. 8 types of fun. So it is fantasy. It is the idea of not being in our world, but delving into a fantastical, otherworldly place and engaging in that type of fantasy. It's losing yourself in that fantasy as well, portraying a character that moves, acts, and reacts to the world that is there. Some players love fantasy because delve so much into fantasy that, like I said, the gold standard is remembering what happened as if it was you, not a character you were playing. Some people say, yo, I remember when my character did this thing. Others will break down and cry even and have an emotional state or have personal joys about what their character accomplishes, leaving a legacy behind or something like that. So there's fantasy. Then there's submission and abnegation. And submission and abnegation is like full immersion. It is releasing the holds on yourself and submitting yourself to the game and everything that it encompasses. You're not arguing, you're not against it, you're enjoying all the interactions of other people. You can be a passive participant and you're still engaged, even though it might not be specifically about your character or what you're creating. It's also about, I also think maybe submission is about free-flowing with the rules and how they interact as well. Grabbing the dice, knowing what you need, rolling it, and individuals speak cross-talking like, oh, don't remember you get this bonus. Okay, adding that bonus in. Great, you did this thing. Oh, and we're describing the outcome, and you're like, great. And you're not even you're writing down results on your character sheet and marking things off, and you don't even remember doing it. You know, at the end of the game, you're like, man, I wrote down a bunch of notes. I don't even remember doing those things. So I think submission is just getting lost in the game as well as the emotional part of it, and just enjoying the camaraderie. Where we get into fellowship, but we're going to talk about narrative. Some people enjoy the fun of a, dare I say, well-structured written story. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes people are preloaded themselves to tell a story. So sometimes players want to engage in, this is an article from Gnome Stew, by the way, and this includes the same or similar-ish, it's a smaller article about the same thing, sensation, fantasy, and whatever. And I think in narrative, some people come preloaded, and what I mean by that is that they're coming here to tell a story. They have a beginning, a middle, and a goal for the end of their character's arc. And they enter into it and do such a thing in terms of wanting to accomplish a goal, whether that goal is emotional or social or psychological for their character. And maybe it is even physical. They want to travel from A to B, and they are destined to get there. And they want to tell a story. I think the others, going back to the OSR, I think others are, their narrative fun comes after the fact. They play the game because at the end of the game, they want to take the shuffled, disparate chaos and shuffle it into a coherent story. They will write a story around the very things that are there. And that's a thing too. You know, how many times have people, you know, the classic, let me tell you about my character. or let me tell you about the last game. And there are many channels that are about that too. Hey, um, we did a live play. This is session number 3. Let me tell you what happened in session number 3. And they describe it not just factually, they describe it in story beats. And then in the next scene, and then the character did this thing, and then leading up to a thing. So I would say that narratively, many times those players aren't really, it's not engaged in beating up the bad guy. It could be a character has a coronation or is given a medal, or um, they become they receive a deed or a bequeathing or will from a dead NPC, and they really enjoy that part of a story. Um, they have children in the game. They leave a legacy behind, and they're playing the great grandchild of their old character, and they really enjoy that part. We also have discovery, and discovery is the investigation, the discovery of the world, the histories, the motivations, the plots of the story. And players that are investigative really love discovery. They want to know more about the world. They might be less inclined to help collaborate because one of the people that I write with Critical Hit Publishing, Rob really isn't a collaborator. He likes to get into a world and you create the entire world. He doesn't want to collaborate on it at all. He just wants to discover what's there. He's very inquisitive and introspective and a discovery individual. And he feels like if he adds story elements to it, then the world he's going into wasn't finished, and he doesn't like being told that the world isn't finished. I mean, that's his own particular thing, but yeah. Uh, um, Hoey says, in my case, it's reactionary. My PC was born in that world and tries its best to deal with what life is thrown at them. Um, yeah, and that's a real thing, right? Some people just want to discover what the world's about, and if there are problems and issues, and remember, these overlap, right? Narrative and discovery, and narrative and fellowship, all these things, these are sliders. They're not separate, specific categories that don't involve the other ones. Then our last ones are challenge, fellowship, and sensory pleasure. Challenge is, I suppose, would be the closest to using the rules of the game. But I also think challenge deals with creatively overcoming an issue without necessarily using the rules. We just became very creative, meaning like I remember a player one time um, distracted the evil horde that was coming after them by basically taking a sack of gold and spilling it out, like dumping the money out, which made the people in the front of the horde stop to get the gold, and then it forced the ones behind them to fall into them because they were being chased. And I was just like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. You don't even need to make a roll on that. Like, what will be the point? Like, they're going to stop. The whole point of chasing you down is to A, murder kill you, and B, steal your stuff. Well, you gave them half your stuff without them having to have much effort. And the other PCs were like, why'd you do that? And you're like, we don't have time to fight 33 orcs, right? This is old OSR BX D&D. Like, we don't have time for that. We got to get the heck up out of here. Solve the problem, right? Coming up with a creative solution. And sometimes when it comes to creativity, you get those players that want to carve up the dead bodies of monsters to save their innards and their organs and stuff. Oh, it's the brain of a intellect devourer. It's I don't know, the blood of a giant. It's the hairs on the back of a catablopus, whatever the case might be, right? It's a snake cut off the head of a Medusa or something, and want to use them creatively, and that's where that comes from as well for challenge. Along with, let's be honest, min-maxing, using the rules to maximize your success. Yeah. Oh, the eye of a beholder. Yep. Got to carve one of those out if you ever kill one. Even if it's to bring it back to make a necklace out of it. Dip it in amber and make a necklace. So, lastly, we have fellowship and sensory pleasure. Fellowship is basically getting together with people. Beer and pretzels. Some people don't even want to play the game. They're just there to interact with other like-minded, creative, geeky, nerdy individuals. And the game is secondary. I would put those that are into improv. There are many creatives in the gaming space. It says, nope, that became a crystal ball for my mage. Ooh. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes more than a little bit of sense to make a crystal ball out of from a beholder. I'm sure it was the big main eye, because the small ones are more like, I'm thinking more like marbles, the baseball size. Not that I know what a beholder really looks like, but but yeah, you're like, the main eye is mine. um, but yeah, some people, I would say that there are many creatives in the tabletop role playing space that aren't necessarily, they aren't role players, but they're consummate creators and creatives, and they enjoy the fellowship of being around actors, comedians, artists, writers, layout artists, um, um, uh, graphic designers, and the role-playing part of the game uh, is secondary to them doing the math. Some people just design games to design games over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I remember the other day I brought up, um, here's the game, A Single Moment. It's a two-player game about two samurai about to kill each other. And this one is written by, let's see if I can show his name. Eloy Lasanta. Where are they at? Oh, the layout was by Eloy, but Eloy Lasanta and Toby Abad. But anyway, yeah, it's a little hard to zoom in on it. Very difficult to zoom in on it. But Eloy Lasanta, I mean, all he does is just design games, like over and over and over again. And is it playing a game? No, but some people just are that way. Cesar, I can't pronounce his last name. Kapale, that did the push system and whatnot. The gentleman over at Gilla RPG is a consummate designer. There are a lot of people who just, all they do is just design games. That's all they do. And they like fellowshipping with other people that design games. And lastly, I will say that sensory pleasure. Everything around games that is a physical presence, the music, that excites your senses. Heck, there are even candles that have the scent of sewers and burning wood and charcoal and fire and acids and things. There are miniatures and maps and terrain and t-shirts and artwork, and some people are just excited by that. They can just get images and photographs and art pictures of landscapes that excite them and spark that creative, that have that creative spark that gets them into the game, and they need that. Some people, I remember, I have music playing very low in the background here. Hopefully it's low enough that it's not too distracting, but there's a reason why like Sirenscape and other types of Sirenscape and Battle Bards have this music and soundscapes on loop in the background and such. And the reason for that is because people like those kind of things as well. So the 8 types of fun, very cool. Oops, sorry. This is from Gnome Stew, the gaming blog. Let me go back to the top. Does it give a date? 2016. So it's got some age on it. It's about eight going on almost 9 years old now. And it talks about the whole thing, submission and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yep. So, and of course he gives the MDA, a formal approach to game design. So here's the wiki page for Marc LeBlanc, the MIT graduate who in computer science that that was one of the individuals that created the MDA about the 8 types of fun. Here is the 5-page written dissertation about gaming, and it's presented. This was, it was Game Developers Conference San Jose 2001 to 2004, and submitted, what was it, Northwestern University. And this is where the 8 types of fun came from. And here, share this out. This is just the Angry GM RPG advice with attitude. And this was back in January 2014. This article was written. This one goes in a lot more depth. It's much longer. If you allow me to page through this a little bit here pretty quickly, it goes through a lot of the 8 types of fun, and this is just the part 1, where finally we get down in here, you actually get the 8 types, and then it actually continues to go on and on and on and on. So, yeah, you get past submission, and then goes on to other things. So, yeah, pretty fun. Pretty fun, and you can read people's comments and things like that. I would actually ask you guys, like, maybe you may think that there are some things that are missing from this, or don't belong, or maybe could use a little bit more clarification. So anybody who's out there looking for the 8 types of fun and wants to know about them or use them in your game, please do so. And, come up with the language, at least when someone says this game sucks, or they don't like the game, or they don't understand why the game is successful. Tell them about these categories and the 8 types of fun. More likely than not, it is because there are people that are part of this. And I would even say, lastly, that when it comes to the 8 types of fun, I think this even involves creators like backer kit and Kickstarters, people that are part of a community, and those that are outside of those communities, and they get their fun from that. Meaning, like, especially here for Fellowship, number 5 here, this is from the wiki page from Mark LeBlanc. Under Fellowship, I think some people like Matt Colville because they're part of a community. There are critical hitters, the critters, from Critical Hit, and Critical Role, Critical Role, and I think they like the Fellowship. There are some games that are just built for expression, and people want to see those games created. I think there's some game creators that create games that maybe you don't want to play, but they strike a chord with the type of fun that you like, and they create games that are part of that fun. And so, in terms of these 8 types of fun, yeah, some people are just that way. Heck, there are even people who have channels, Twitch channels, YouTube channels, podcasts and such, that some people just are in their submission role. They're just here to listen in and watch. And they don't even learn anything new, but they are interested in that person's expression, their voice, their mannerisms, their opinions, whether you agree with those opinions or not. I think that also deals with the fun of a thing. I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube channels that are my podcasts, and I listen to some creators. There's a gentleman that lives north of me in Ashtabula. I guess he still lives there. Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, and I can just get lost in the science and the futurism of his channel, talking about the future and theoretical sciences and things like that. And so some of it is discovery as well, because I do learn a lot. And so I think fun isn't just sitting down with dice at a table. It's online interactions. It is the social media pages, the Discords, the Facebooks, the Reddit pages, and groups that people are part of, and I think that deals with it as well. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for allowing me to express myself with you guys as one of the 8 types of fun. I hope you guys have some fun out there and are able, again, this is just something I thought I would bring up yet again. It is old, it's almost 25 years old, but that's good because I still think it's a great categorical language we can use to discuss the reasons why we like or don't like a thing in our creative community, and to give this knowledge to other people, even if you know it very well, to give this knowledge to other people, to say to them, hey, listen, instead of just using words like awful, great, fine, meh, terrible, good, okay, you know, let's get a little bit more detail. Why is it that you didn't find the game fun? Well, I didn't really have anything tactile. I don't mind playing online, but I don't have any dice or miniatures or something like that. Drew says, I had 8 types of fun with this video. Well, I hope you use some hand sanitizer and a absorbent towelette for your enjoyment. I think all of us need to do that on our way out the door. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow, what are we going to do tomorrow? I'm trying to remember. I know there's some category. I'm going to find, because okay, where's my outline at? I do these things at the last minute so much. Let's see. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Player responsibilities. Yeah. Player responsibilities. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. One of them named after a Ludacris song. You'll have to guess which older Ludacris song it's named after. It's a hip hop song. It's one of the 8 player responsibilities, because I think a lot of times we tend to put a lot of onus on the game master and the dungeon masters, and personally, I think there are specific player responsibilities. So we're going to do player responsibility. Like, what is your job when you come to the table? It ain't just to show up the character and take the spotlight, right? There's some things I think players need to do, and one of them is right down here. Yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for always being part of my energy here, Drew and Hoy and everybody else is part of the show. Also, for those that have come this far, you know, spread the love. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let others know about the channel if you like. If you don't mind, it's free. It defeats the algo monsters. And if we're going to bother playing role-playing games, we might as well learn the rules of the system and take down the hit points of the algo monster. Let's help defeat it and take its treasure. I guess taking the treasure would be owning YouTube. That'd be $1 billion industry. Anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Again, 8 types of fun. Spread the word, spread the love. Guys, thank you very much. Have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility. Oh, I have to give you my salutation. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time here. I appreciate it. I hope, in turn, I can make change for your gaming experience. Have a great one. Bye.